Your next move needs to be your best move. Most of us don't even activate this gift of discernment until after we have messed up and royally screwed over our lives. And yes, it's good for us to assess the situation after it's over. We look back, we say, okay, what could we have done differently, and this, that, and the third. Okay, that's great, right? But can we really afford to keep learning lessons after the fact? Really? Can we really afford to? And at this big old age, can you really afford to keep making mistake after mistake after mistake and saying, oh, well, let me just look back on it. Hindsight is 20/20. No, not when you have discernment. Not when you have discernment. Because you can assess situations right now based on your research, based on your experiences, based on the Holy Spirit, based on assessing the truth from the lies and really truly analyzing a situation. And we don't do that. Are you willing to activate? Are you willing to activate your God-given gift of discernment? Not that you have to think the way I do or make the decisions that I make, but you have to think about them. You have to think critically about your decisions. You cannot afford to keep learning lessons after the fact. You have to be proactive. You have to think before you act. Can I admit something? I'm scared of y'all. Like, legit scared of y'all. I told myself that I was gonna stay away from talking about politics. It doesn't sit well with me to talk about it, but it doesn't sit well with me to not talk about it, because the way I view it is that no topic should be off limits when we're talking about discernment, because we are to use discernment in every area of our lives. And I would argue and say, especially politics. But I am like legit scared of you guys. Because this climate, this political climate has become so toxic that it's like a legitimate fear to not talk about it, for fear of alienating someone or ostracizing someone or making someone feel undue pressure. And I told myself that I would stay away from the topic because I didn't want to alienate someone or ostracize someone or make anybody feel pressured. But I feel alienated, ostracized, and pressured to not talk about it, because if someone is feeling that I am favoring one candidate over the other, then I'll be attacked. My business won't thrive. People will feel whatever they'll feel. It's hard to really even gauge how people feel right now, because it seems like it's really just all about the feelings. So there's just really no way to even gauge how to assess someone's feelings when it seems like feelings are what's taking center stage. The logic, the critical thinking, the wise decision making, the discernment is completely missing. So I had this conversation with my husband, and I even talked to him about it. You know, should I talk about this on my channel? Should I not? Whatever. He says, no, don't do it. For the same reason why I told you guys. But it doesn't sit well with me. And it is because I see that there is a lot of coercion and deception. But there is a lot of coercion as it relates to this election. But the reason why it doesn't sit well with me to not talk about it is because even though the focus of the conversation right now would be politics, but tomorrow the focus will be relationships. The next day it'll be friendships. The next day it'll be work relationships. The next day it'll be social media. The next day it'll be church and religion. It'll always be something, because we have not gotten the principles down of discernment. So when it comes to politics, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to anything, we are not thinking critically, and we are not making wise decisions. This particular focus is just something that just happens to be the right now focus. But tomorrow it'll be something different. And next week after the election's over, it'll be something different. And then the next time it'll be something different, because we don't know how to discern. And so I have wrestled with this. I have talked to God. God, how do I talk to your daughters about discernment as it relates to politics? How do I do that and not alienate myself? How do I do that and not ostracize myself? How do I do that and still have a thriving business where I'm telling your daughters that we need discernment now more than ever? And I see the division. I see the division between race, between gender, between sexual orientation, between religion. I see the division so much, but really the only division that needs to be is the division between discerners, dummies, and deceivers. That's it. That's the division right there. And when you really think about it, does it matter the race? Does it matter the sexual orientation? Does it matter the gender? Does it matter even the religious or political stance? It doesn't matter. Because guess what? This is the only division there needs to be. And I'm going to talk about it. I wrote this series called Coercing the Vote. And I want you guys to tune in on this series. And we're going to talk about the principles of discernment, but I really want to focus on women. I don't talk to men like men can talk to men. I want to talk to the women here, because it is so very important for women to have discernment. Because guess what? Your next move needs to be your best move. Most of us don't even activate this gift of discernment until after we have messed up and royally screwed over our lives. And yes, it's good for us to assess the situation after it's over. We look back, we say, okay, what could we have done differently, and this, that, and the third. Okay, that's great, right? But can we really afford to keep learning lessons after the fact? Really? Can we really afford to? And at this big old age, can you really afford to keep making mistake after mistake after mistake and saying, oh, well, let me just look back on it. Hindsight is 20/20. No, not when you have discernment. Not when you have discernment. Because you can assess situations right now based on your research, based on your experiences, based on the Holy Spirit, based on assessing the truth from the lies and really truly analyzing a situation. And we don't do that. And so I know my fear is valid, because even still, knowing that I'm sharing my heart with you guys and that I'm telling you that I know that people are going to misinterpret. But again, these are the divisions right here. And I'm clear about what my purpose is. And my purpose is to teach discernment. And for those who are in the dummy category right now, who just don't know any better, but have a desire to activate their gift of discernment, those are the ones I'm talking to. Those are the ones that I'm talking to. And if you want to ostracize me or alienate me, then that's just fine. That's just something that I'm just going to have to deal with. Because these are the divisions here. And so I know that if I'm alienated, if I'm ostracized, it's because I'm activating my gift of discernment and you simply are not. And so we have these divisions here between discerners, dummies, and deceivers. Even deceivers, in some cases, don't realize that they are being deceptive. And my message is to you too. If you have a desire to change from being a deceiver, change from being a dummy, and activate your gift of discernment, it's already in you. It's already there. It's a matter of activating that God-given gift and using it to make the best decisions of your life. When it comes to politics, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to finances, when it comes to social media, when it comes to our day-to-day interactions, our career choices, when it comes to every decision in our lives, we need to be activating that gift. Are you willing to activate? Are you willing to activate your God-given gift of discernment? Not that you have to think the way I do or make the decisions that I make, But you have to think about them. You have to think critically about your decisions. You cannot afford to keep learning lessons after the fact. You have to be proactive. You have to think before you act. And so I want you guys to tune into this series called Coercing the Vote. And I want you to think about it in terms of every interaction you have in your life, not just politically, but in a sense of, I want to be a discerner. I want to use my God-given gift to make wise decisions, to think about things critically, to think about those around me and those that I love. Because I can't afford to keep making mistakes and learning after the fact. My next move has to be my best move. I hope you guys will tune in. I'm Delores, the pastor's daughter, your discernment and relationship coach, and I'm here for you. So let's activate. Are you or someone you know using emotional manipulation, guilt tripping, identity politics, or even weaponizing intimacy as a means to force another person's hand in the voting booth? Welcome to Coercing the Vote series, where we uncover the subtle and not so subtle tactics used to manipulate votes, specifically in the context of women pressuring men to vote for Kamala Harris. This series is not about who you should vote for. It's about recognizing the methods some use to control, manipulate, and coerce others in the voting process. Tactics that often undermine the values of freedom, choice, and integrity. Now, as a plug, I'll say, I don't really talk about politics, just only in the context of where politics meets discernment. And especially in today's very toxic political climate, it's quite dangerous to talk about politics. But I have seen a lot of people are using deceptive tactics to coerce people into voting a particular way. Now, I've noticed it mostly one way. So that's the way that I'll talk about it, but it applies to either way that you may be leaning on voting. Now, throughout this series, we'll tackle various coercive strategies, including emotional manipulation, guilt tripping for support, social pressure, shaming, and voting based on identity politics such as race, gender, or unchristian policies like abortion and sexual orientation. We'll discuss why these tactics are toxic, how they damage relationships, and why they ultimately offer little substance or true benefit to our lives and futures. If you found yourself at the receiving end of such pressure, or if you've felt tempted to use these tactics yourself, this series is for you. It's time to shine a light on these manipulative behaviors and recognize them for what they are: attempts to control and coerce. But it doesn't stop here. I'm inviting you to take the 7-day Got Discernment Challenge. In this challenge, we'll dive deep into building your discernment muscles, sharpening your ability to see beyond the surface, and equipping you with the tools to navigate manipulation tactics confidently. Whether you're voting, relationships, or any other area of your life, activating your discernment is key to living a life of truth, autonomy, and integrity. So are you ready to break free from the chains of manipulation and step into a life of empowered decision making? Let's get started. Let's activate.